what are the key elements in creating a brand strategy for a city?
When a city kind of sets off to create a brand strategy, I think it's extremely important that you do it in collaboration with the people living in the city. A brand strategy should always be built on top of what's there, what's real, and what's the experience when you get there. And in a city like Copenhagen, where we don't have a Colosseum, we don't have an Eiffel Tower, we don't have like a romantic story or anything, we have a lot of different cores to the city that works for us. It's been important for us to have a flexible strategy that we can use in different situations. We are a very big strategy, or very big city, popular city to business travelers. That's one story, that's one experience of the city, that people come here as business travelers. But we're also a very big cruise destination at the same time, and we're also a very big leisure destination. So all these things together needs to kind of have a flexible strategy, but it has to be built on what's there, what's real, and what corresponds with the people living in the city.
So, what are the essential parts of your brand strategy for Copenhagen?
It's essential for us to communicate directly with the consumers when we talk about leisure, when we talk about the consumers traveling to a city on their own, planning on their own, finding a hotel on their own. It's important for us that we do not just communicate in the official channels. We know that, of course, today travelers that go to a big city, they source information, inspiration, knowledge, tips and tricks from friends and relatives, and especially on social media, where this is just now the way to go about when we travel to big cities. That's what we see, and everything shows that. We know that, and we really try to have an approach that takes the message to the consumers where they actually are in the periods where they want to be.
So you're meeting the consumers where they are?
That's the point, yes.
And one thing is creating a strategy, another thing is implementing it. So what are the keys to implementing a brand strategy for a city with success?
I think there's one point is the things you plan, the things you do, and another thing is have a lucky punch sometimes. Copenhagen has been in a spot where we've been subject to a lot of attention caused by things that weren't in any brand strategy. There's been a lot of television productions coming out from Denmark that created a massive fuss and massive attention to Copenhagen, which is kind of a lucky punch on top of what's going on. Sometimes you just need to be lucky as well. But there's definitely a core still. The essential part is definitely to be realistic, to be realistic of your size, and maybe even use your size and your position as an asset. And then also looking very much on the team and the kind of the partners you have to execute any strategy is important. Look back, what kind of team do you want? Is it a strategy that really depends on a lot of content production? Because if that's the case, maybe you should uniform your team, or you should create a team that's able to do that instead of just handling a budget or handling a something else.
And do you work with any sub-brands when you're branding Copenhagen?
Yes, Copenhagen is a lot of things. Copenhagen as one brand is, I think, built up on many things. We do work with different sub-brands. When we look back in history, the Øresund region has been one of the kind of brands that have been a part of Copenhagen, but a difficult one to kind of lift, because it's a geographical place. It's not in anyone's real mindset. There is no one gets up in the morning and drinks a cup of coffee and says to themselves, I live in the Øresund region. I either live in Malmö or in Copenhagen, because we tend to kind of relate to a city and not a region when we talk about consumers. So there's definitely a challenge in terms of that. That's a project that's on right now in terms of getting Copenhagen as a bigger brand for the region, because Copenhagen is the brand in the region when we look at it strategically as well, and when we look at international attention. But we do have sub-brands. We do have projects like Copenhagen Cooking. We do have projects like the Marathon, or these events that also use Copenhagen as a core in the name, and that's all corresponding with what we want to do.